Hey, I just wanted to do a little haul pickup video slash talking about my day. I guess I talked in my previous video about getting books from 1111 Press, how they were going to be hosting this reading. They're going to have a table at the Twin Cities Book Festival and then have a reading. Well, that was today, and I went. And I did a few other things today as well and got some stuff. So I'm just going to sort of go through my day, talk about the festival, the reading, and go over stuff that I got throughout the day. And this is going to be records and books, both. So I started the day out going to the Twin Cities Book Festival, which is held every year by Rain Taxi Literary Journal at the State Fairgrounds in St. Paul. It's a big room where the main part of it is aisles of tables where you've got individual authors and small presses and like schools, like colleges from the area who have like writing programs and stuff, or presses and publish stuff are there. Usually my college that I went to has a presence there, but they were not there this year, which was weird. I was expecting to like see old professors, and I didn't. They weren't there. Whatever. And then around the perimeter of the building, there are local bookstores selling books, and then there's also a big thing of thrifty used books that are all to raise money for Rain Taxi to help pay for the event and help keep Rain Taxi going because it's a nonprofit company. And so I've been to TCBF a few times when I was in college, and it's not I don't it's whatever, not huge, not my huge thing. Most of the stuff that is being shown off there is doesn't interest me that much. There's a lot of different stuff for sure, but it just a lot of it is just stuff that I'm not interested in, and that is still true. But I did get to stop at the 1111 Press booth. When I got there, there were three people at the booth. Andrew Wilt, who is the head, he runs 1111. He's the man behind the curtain, so to speak. And then with him were David Leo Rice, who is an author who he has a book out in 1111 Drifter, which is a story collection. And then as well, we had Logan Berry was there, who his debut book, Run Off Sugar Crystal Lake, is forthcoming from 1111. It's coming out on Halloween, so just in a couple weeks. And it was funny because I went up to the booth, and Andrew was like, "Oh, hey, how are you going? Doing good? How are you?" And he was like, "Are you interested in like experimental fiction at all?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, actually, I just bought some books from you guys recently." And he was like, I could tell he was kind of surprised. And we started talking about it. He was like, "Yeah, people haven't. It doesn't seem like people are super, into this kind of thing here, which is too bad. It's too bad. It's unfortunate that was the case." But so I got to talk to them a bit about how I had found their books, how I had read B.R. Yeager's books, and I read Maggie Sievert's book, and then because Maggie did the book trailer for Logan's Berry's new book, that was how I found 1111, and then I realized that they were in the same place as me, and then it all just kind of fell into place. Super nice guys, and I decided to pick up Logan's book because they had copies of it, even though it's not out yet. So this is it, Run Off Sugar Crystal Lake. It is a sort of very kinetic, like sort of living object book, and it's inspired by Friday the 13th. And so yeah, and Logan was nice enough to sign it for me, and that was really cool. And they were like, "We have this event tonight," and I was like, "Oh, I know, I'm gonna be there." And they were again very pleased to hear it. And yeah, so we were only at the book festival for an hour maybe, and then my friend who I was going with, who I was gonna go to the reading with later, had a sort of family emergency happen that kind of threw our plans into turmoil, and she was not going to be able to hang out for the rest of the day or go to the reading. So at that point I was sort of presented with two options. The first option was go home and hang out for 3.5 hours twiddling my thumbs, and then drive back into the city again to go to the reading. So I decided instead to, I was like, I've got a little extra change in my pocket that I haven't had in a while. Maybe I'll go out and treat myself and go some of my old haunts. I went up to Lake Street to go to one of my favorite record stores in the city's very long-running record store, Harvey's Records, which is on 39th and Lake Street, far east Minneapolis, very close to the river, and just on the river is the border between Minneapolis and St. Paul. Found a number of things that I wanted, and ended up taking two things that I found in their section of new releases and recent reissues that they had up near the register. And there were a lot of things that I found that I wanted, but these were the two that I settled on based on how much I like the records and what the prices were for them compared to other things in the store that I wanted. So the first thing I got was this reissue of To Bring You My Love by PJ Harvey.
I lost my heart under the bridge to that little girl, so much to me, and now I'm old, and now I holler, she'll never know just what I found, that blue-eyed girl.
This is PJ Harvey's third album, I'm pretty sure, from 1995. This is one of her best and most beloved and popular records. If you've never listened to PJ Harvey before, she does some really great sort of singer-songwriter music of various genres, rock, folky even, and electronic, lots of stuff. She in the 90s she was in a relationship for a number of years with Nick Cave, and I kind of think of them as very kindred spirits. Like, it makes sense to me that they found each other. Also kind of makes sense to me that they did not stay together. Not that I would claim to really know them at all, but just based on their vibes makes sense. So I got that, and that one cost me $17.98. And then I was very excited to find this, because I don't have it. Feels by Animal Collective. even know that they were repressing this. Back in the day when I was really into Animal Collective and I saw them for the first time, it was when they were touring for this record in like 2006. And I decided to buy Sung Tongs at the merch table at that show. So I've had Sung Tongs for 15 years, longer. And then I did eventually scoop up Merriweather when I was working at half price. Someone sold it and I picked it up. But I've never had Feels, even though Feels is my favorite album by them. And so I was very happy to find this. And the price is a little higher than I like, But because I like this album so much, I was willing to pay it. So this one was $25. And so the prices on these were pretty good, which I think will be illustrated by the next place that I went, which was a pretty legendary record store here in the Twin Cities, Cheapo. There are 3 Cheapos currently, 3 locations. There have been more in the past, and they have been in various places in the past. But the original location is the Minneapolis store, which was in the Uptown neighborhood on Lake Street for many, 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 many years, and it was the biggest record store in the state. And it was 2 floors, huge CDs and DVDs upstairs, and vinyl and tapes in the basement. Huge store. And then I guess it's been a pretty long time now. It's more than 5 years, but less than 10. I don't remember exactly when, but they got evicted basically from their building, and they tore that building down and turned it into condos, because that neighborhood uptown is just all becoming condos now. Very yuppie, trendy, affluent neighborhood. And so they moved a mile and a half away over to Nicollet and 26th, a neighborhood that's referred to as Eat Street because it has a high concentration of restaurants in a just a couple block span. And they took over this place that used to be like a payday loan center, and it's like half the size it used to be. It's still pretty big. I would guess if it's not the biggest, it's the second biggest, behind the electric fetus. But it is still very big, just not as big as it used to be. And they, the quality of Cheapo, my experience there has gone down significantly over time. I was noticing today when I was there, price differences that were pretty rough. So like for instance, these 2 reissues that I got of Feels and PJ Harvey, they had both of these there. And so I paid $25 at Jaime's for this. They were selling this at Cheapo for $33.99. So it's a $9 difference. And then the PJ Harvey one I got for $18, and they were selling it for $24. So that's a $6 difference. So I saved $15 just by buying them at Pionees. And then I noticed a few other things. Records that I had bought at Cheapo in the last 2 years, where the price had gone significantly up. The 2 that I can remember, the first was Blood Visions by Jay Reatard, which I bought I think earlier this year or like during the pandemic, and I paid $16 for it. I remember when I found it, I was like, oh shit, that's a really good price. Like I'm gonna get that. And then they had it, now it's like 24. It's like a 50% increase. And then the other one was Black Origami by Jalen, I saw, and I paid under $25 for it. I don't remember exactly how much, between probably 25-ish. And then they were selling it now for $32. So that's $7 increase, which is like a more than 25% increase. It's just, I understand that like vinyl is getting more expensive and it's harder to make. There aren't enough plants. Everything's getting backed up. The demand is increasing. The supply is not. But when you see a record at a different store, a smaller store, for such a significant discount, it doesn't feel great. But all of that aside, I did find a record that I wanted at a price that I thought was good, and that was Perfect From Now On by Built to Spill. This one ran me $19.99, which is, I just have had to accept the fact that, like, when I first got, like, seriously into buying records and going to record stores, that was in, like, the late 2000s, and most new albums were $10 to $15. Frequently less, even. Frequently they would be like $8. And, sometimes they would go as high as like 20 or so, but that was like for really nice or expensive ones. And now, it's been a while, things have changed, and, $25 is like, I think the average, generally speaking, nowadays for most things. And it's not uncommon for things to be above 30. It's very common, in fact, I would say, for things to be above $30, which is a lot. It's a lot for one album. And I resist as much as I can. I prioritize and I buy records that are cheaper. Usually when I'm looking, I'll see things that I want, but I'm like, I can't pay that much for this album. Do I, like, for instance, when I was at Jaime's, they had a copy of their Inhaler by Tad. This is a sort of more obscure Seattle grunge band from the 90s that kind of got swept up in the grunge boom, and they had this one major label record, Inhaler, that I liked a lot when I was a teenager, but it was like $32, and I was like, oh shit, I didn't, this must have been repressed, like I didn't even know that they had done this. That's pretty cool. It was like exciting to see it, but I don't $32 love that album, and so, especially, like, I like the two albums I did get significantly more, and they cost significantly less. So, yeah, those were the three records I got: The Built to Spill, PJ Harvey, Animal Collective. That was really, really fun, getting to go record shopping, and actually having a little bit of money so I could, drop $60 on on records. $70, I guess. Which makes me want to throw up when I say that. I shouldn't be spending that much money, but whatever. It's fine. It's whatever. And so, yeah, like when I finished, when I left the book fair, it was like almost 3, and the reading wasn't until 7. And so after I got done at Jaime's, or no, I'm sorry, after I got done at Cheapo, it was like 6 or so. I ate in there too and did a few other like little errands. And so I was like, all right, I'll just, I'll head over to Modest Brewing, which is where the event was, a brewery tap room that's in this part of downtown Minneapolis that's sort of like this sort of nebulous area between downtown and like north and northeast Minneapolis that traditionally has been called the Warehouse District. But in recent years, people have started calling it the North Loop. I don't know if those are like two distinct different things, but it seems like they are used interchangeably. It's right next to the Target Field where the Twins play, this brewery. So I got to the brewery at like 6:30, and I was like, all right, I'm a little early, but like, I'll just hang out on my phone or whatever for a half hour until it starts. And I go in, and there is no discernible place where there would be a reading happening. And I'm immediately like, oh no, am I at the wrong place? Panicking, checking my phone, making sure I'm at the right place. All of these things. I'm like walking around into the building, seeing if there's like a secret entrance or something. And then around the alley, there's like a loading bay door that is open, and through that I can see that there is like a back area, and I see PAs that are set up. And then I move back around, and then I realize that in the main taproom area of the brewery, there is like a garage door in next to the bar that has a rack of t-shirts in front of it. And I was like, oh, that's the door. It's hidden. And then I realized that 7 on the event was door time, not event time. And I was like, man, I'm a fucking idiot. So doors opened a half hour after I got there, and then I went in and sat, and then they didn't end up actually starting until almost 8 o'clock, so I was there very early. But that's, it's okay. So as I was, hanging out, waiting for things to pop off, Logan Berry actually came up to me, saw me sitting there, and was like, hey, you came. Yeah, you're here. And we talked for, maybe 5-10 minutes. Super nice guy. Just a very kind guy. He was like, how did you find out about 1111? And so I told him the B.R. Yeager to Maggie Siebert to him to 1111 pipeline. And we talked a little bit about Yeager's books and Maggie's book and how good they are and how much we like them. And he was like, yeah, the scene is sort of really interesting because it's very online and like people are all over the place doing these things, but like they're all sort of connected through Twitter and blah blah blah. And he was like, what's your Twitter? Let's be Twitter buds. And he was asking me about my writing and told me to send him stuff. And super gracious, nice guy, very very kind, and I really appreciated that, and it made me just happy that I bought his book and want to read it. And then also Andrew, who runs 1111, also came up to me and was like, hey, you're here, thanks for coming, and was also very gracious and nice. So big ups to those guys. They're very, very sweet, cool guys. The reading, conversation, whatever you want to call it, event was really enjoyable, very fun. It ran for about 2 hours. And it was hosted by the guys from Wake Island podcast. So Wake Island is the podcast of a guy, Paul K., who it's a conversation podcast with novelists, artists, authors, people making interesting stuff. And it was hosted by him and David Leo Rice, who wrote this book, Drifter. which 1111 published, story collection. Um, and they had five authors isn't the right word, but creators there that they gave about 20 minutes each to do like a little conversation about the theme of the night, which was the horror of meat and spirit, and how their works pertained to that, and then they did a little, presented some of their stuff. And so first we had the aforementioned Logan Berry, Everyone Off Sugar Crystal Lake. He came out in Jason Voorhees cosplay. Very fun. And he talked a lot about how various things. One thing that struck me was him talking about how when he sort of presented the text of this book to 1111, it was extremely different. And then Mike Correo, who I will get to later, who is an author and an editor at 1111, really collaborated with him a lot to make the book more of a sort of object, like an art object instead of just a book, instead of just text, which is something that Correo seems really interested in based on his books and the things he talked about. And we got a little performance from it, and he also did a performance that was this sort of song / poem a cappella that he sang. That was very interesting, and his voice reminded me of Scott Walker, a very operatic and vibrato filled voice. So it was really cool. So that was great. And then we had Vincent James Perrone come up, and he is a poet, and I do have his book here of poems that 1111 put out. Starving Romantic. I haven't read this yet, but he was a very thoughtful and interesting guy, and he was also running sound tonight at the event. And then we had Danica Stegman LeMay, who is a local poet, who was talking about her collection that she wrote that is poems inspired by the television series Lost. Not in like a fan fiction way, but more in like the themes and ideas that show presents, sort of analoging them into a different medium. Very interesting. And I like Lost, so I was very intrigued by that. Then we had Mike Correo, who I just mentioned, who has published a couple of books of very experimental fiction, and he talked a lot about how he sort of contextualizes his books and how he structures them in this very interesting way, where he's thinking about them as an artifact rather than, like, at first, more than anything else, where he's thinking about, like, when he conceptualizes a book, he's thinking about what are the dimensions of the book, and things like that before he's even getting down to writing the book itself. And he's also an editor now at 1111. And like I was saying, he sort of exerted his influence on Logan Berry's book and a few other books. He seems like a really, really smart guy. He seems a very young guy. I think, at least he looks it. He looks like he's younger than me, at least. And so I'm sure we have plenty of interesting things ahead from him. He was also talking about how he draws inspiration from lots of crazy things, like video essays about Metal Gear Solid 3, where was his specific reference that he made. And I just made a video where I talked about how much I love Metal Gear Solid 3, so there you go. And then the final artist of the night was Sam Robertson, who is a local guy, artist, who spent 7 years illustrating the Old Testament, and he's like a non-religious person, and his illustrations are very sort of humorous and maybe even blasphemous and interesting, and weird and very good. And it's like 250, I think, around 250 illustrations to accompany the Old Testament. So it's going to be a big, fat, expensive book. They are selling pre-orders for it. I believe it's like around $120 for it. But it is very cool and probably worth it, I think. And he did a little slideshow presentation where he showed us 8 illustrations and then read their accompanying passages, and he picked ones that fit the theme of the night, which again was the horror of meat and spirit. And so there was some pretty good ones. And he talks a lot about how he tried to like tackle violence in the text of the Old Testament in a way where he like purposely like didn't show violence or like would obscure violence. But there was like the passage, I can't remember what book it's from, where there's 2 baskets of figs, and one is good and you can eat it, and the other basket of figs is evil and is poisonous or something. And so he presents the illustration as 2 baskets of figs, and one is in like a wicker sort of picnic basket, and the other one is in like a metal grocery store cart, like hand basket. And they are like at odds with each other, and he said that this is the most violent illustration in the entire book. I thought that was very funny. And so it was really great, really fun time hearing all of these smart and talented people speak and getting to speak with them. And then they took the people who RSVP'd on Eventbrite, which I did, and they pulled them for a raffle, and I won. And so Andrew gave me a free book, and so I picked Rituals Performed in the Absence of Ganymede by Mike Correo, who I just mentioned before, but I didn't want to show this because I didn't want to spoil the fact that I got it. And so, yeah, you can kind of flip through here and see there's a lot going on in terms of structure and style and things like that. And the book itself says a text by Mike Correo, not a novel or anything like that. It's just a text. And yeah, that was it. That was my day, my long day. It wasn't that long. It was like 9 hours. But I have slowly been making progress on reading, and I hope to be reading more, but I am also doing other things as well. I spent a lot of time with hanging out with people this week. I was like either like hanging out at someone's house watching a movie or going to a movie most of the days of the week this week. Like on Monday I saw Lamb with my friend Alex. And then on Wednesday, I was at a couple friends' house, and we watched some movies. And then we watched the National Treasure movies, actually. And then Thursday, I won preview tickets to see Dune, so I saw Dune a week early with a friend. And then yesterday, I was at a friend's house again. We watched Jackass movies. And then today, I was out doing this shit all day, so I just haven't had a ton of time to read. And what time I have had, I've been playing Disco Elysium, because I've been waiting for the Switch port for that to come out, and so that did, and so I've been playing that, and it's very good. I'll probably do a review or something about that game once I finish it, because I really like it a lot. Anyways, thanks for watching.